Chapter 641. Bang! At the end of his tirade, the dean of the Tianyu Branch Academy couldn't take it anymore. His aura exploded and sent a group of instructors from the Tianyu Branch Academy flying. Who asked them to be blind? Who asked them to look down on others? He had almost ruined such a good seedling. Compared to Luo Qingtong, Shi Qingqing was nothing. A bunch of bastards. They only knew how to look down on others. If Luo Qingtong had any complaints about the academy, he would skin them alive. Just as the dean of the Tianyu Branch Academy was enraged, the saint from the Empire of Qin Saint Academy had an ugly expression on his face. Shi Qingqing had been so arrogant before, but she had been sent flying with one move. He had been so proud of this new disciple of his, but now he was embarrassed. A soul king couldn't even defeat a martial king. It was truly humiliating to the extreme. This Shi Qingqing was simply too trashy. He was simply a pile of mud that couldn't support a wall. Even if she had obtained such a good opportunity in the secret realm of Kaiyuan, it was useless. Just as the sage realm expert was feeling indescribably embarrassed, boom! At the place where Shi Qingqing was, black fog suddenly rose up. Luo Qingtong, you deserve to die. Shi Qingqing's eyes were bloodshot. She looked at Luo Qingtong coldly and resentfully. With a swoosh, she flew up from the ground. She didn't know when the wound on her body caused by Luo Qingtong's kick had healed. Whoosh! Shi Qingqing waved her hand, and a black banner appeared beside her. As the black banner appeared, countless black auras emerged from it. They surrounded her and entered her body. Boom, boom, boom. As the black auras entered Shi Qingqing's body, her aura surged. Her aura rose rapidly and reached the level of the advanced martial emperor realm in just a split second. The eyes of the Saint stage powerhouse on the spectator stand widened when he saw the black banner. He could vaguely sense the aura of a Saint realm expert from the black banner. This black banner was actually a Saint realm treasure? Shi Qingqing actually had such a good item on her. No wonder her strength increased so quickly. He had even activated such a special soul seal. A greedy look appeared in the eyes of the sage powerhouse when he saw the black banner. At the same time, Luo Qingtong also sensed that the treasure she had seen through her pupil technique that had enhanced Shi Qingqing's aura was this black banner. A Saint realm treasure. Haha. Little Pig's voice rang in her mind. I didn't expect Shi Qingqing's luck to be so good. He actually picked up such a Yin soul magic tool in the secret realm of Kaiyuan. This is great. The soul power aura inside definitely wouldn't be weak. It was perfect for that little furball to use as a foundation for its transformation. Master, your luck is here. This saint weapon is damaged, and it's also a Yin soul magic tool. It's perfect for that little furball. Little Pig jabbered in Luo Qingtong's mind. Hurry up and keep it. I know. Luo Qingtong's voice was indifferent. She had locked onto the 100 Ghosts banner the moment it appeared. The latter's aura was indeed very powerful. Through Shi Qingqing, she could enhance her strength. She could release some of her power. Chapter 642. Luo Qingtong, die. Shi Qingqing's eyes turned red. She sacrificed her own life to drive the 100 Ghost banner to greater power. When Shi Qingqing got the 100 Ghost banner, she knew that it was very powerful and evil at the same time. She had been slowly comprehending and absorbing the power in it, and she didn't dare to use the blood sacrifice. Now, in order to kill Luo Qingtong, she didn't care anymore. In this life and death battle, either she or Luo Qingtong would die. Luo Qingtong was much stronger than her. She could only expose this 100 Ghost banner. Fortunately, she had already recognized a Sage Realm expert as her teacher. As long as she killed Luo Qingtong and gave the 100 Ghost banner to her teacher for protection, she could still live a comfortable life in the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin. Luo Qingtong, wait for your death. In an instant, Shi Qingqing's figure flew up. At the same time, she waved the black banner in her hand. King of Ghosts, come out. Following her fierce shout. Suddenly, waves of ferocious ghosts cried and howled from the black banner. In the next second, waves of ferocious ghosts rushed out from it. Just like the sword that Shi Qingqing used before. But this time, the difference was that after those ferocious ghosts rushed out, they didn't rush towards Luo Qingtong. Instead, they surrounded Shi Qingqing and kept howling. In the next second, those ferocious ghosts rushed out from the 100-ghost banner and merged together. They had fused together. Countless ferocious ghosts entangled with each other and combined to form an incomparably huge king of ghosts. Countless ferocious ghosts on its body howled sharply. In the next second, the king of ghosts, like a small mountain, rushed towards Luo Qingtong. The strength of the Emperor Realm. This huge king formed by countless ferocious ghosts had vaguely reached the martial Emperor Realm. The king of ghosts rushed towards Luo Qingtong while howling sharply. Everyone below the stage let out a series of exclamations. Martial Emperor Realm. Oh no. This time, Luo Qingtong was dead for sure. On the viewing platform, the Tianyu Academy's headmaster was hopping mad at this scene. Stop. Stop. The life and death gambling match this time is cancelled. Quick. Remove the protection on the stage and pull them apart. How could the dean of the Tianyu branch let Luo Qingtong die? He immediately rushed out while stamping his feet. The instructors of the Sacred Academy of the Empire of Qin also prepared to join the fight. However, at this moment, the Saint Realm expert from the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin made his move. Life and death gambling match. Life and death are up to fate. His aura suppressed everyone present. Shi Qingqing and Luo Qingtong have already signed the life and death agreement. Don't interfere. His attitude was unyielding. Because just a moment ago, he received a voice transmission from Shi Qingqing, saying that she would give the black banner to him later. As long as he stopped the Tianyu Branch Academy head and the others, he would be able to stop them. Saint Meng. Everyone from the Sacred Academy of the Empire of Qin was stunned. They didn't expect that the Saint Realm expert would participate in this matter and was obviously on Shi Qingqing's side. The dean of the Tianyu Branch Academy was so anxious that he almost fainted. Luo Qingtong's talent and strength were clearly stronger than Shi Qingqing's. If she entered the Sacred Academy of the Empire of Qin, she would be another heaven-grade freshman. Was she going to die here? Just as the dean of the Tianyu Branch Academy was extremely anxious, the king of ghosts rushed in front of Luo Qingtong and attacked her with a shrill cry. At the same time, Shi Qingqing sneered and followed behind the king of ghosts. She took out another weapon and stabbed it at Luo Qingtong. Chapter 643. Luo Qingtong's eyes lit up when she saw the sword light and the king of 10,000 ghosts charging at her. The next second, the tempest sword in her hand moved. Heaven-conquering art, seize heaven's fortune. Swoosh. Luo Qingtong swung the sword move that Yi Qianxian had taught her. She didn't know the level and power of the sword move. Although she didn't use the life and death sword, the power of this move was reduced. But it was enough to deal with the king of 10,000 ghosts that had only vaguely reached the martial emperor realm and Shi Qingqing, who had forcibly advanced to the martial king realm. Boom! Following Luo Qingtong's sword move, in an instant, there was only this extremely bright light under the sky. The screams of the ghosts and the sound of the sword light piercing through the air echoed. Under the illumination of the sword light, the rolling black aura rolled into black and white waves. The next second, screech! A sharp shriek pierced through the sky. Under the shocked gazes of countless people, the tempest sword in Luo Qingtong's hand was like a sword of extinction wielded by the way of heaven. It was like the dawn of the sky as it ruthlessly slashed at the king of 10,000 ghosts in front of her. Amidst the screams of the king of 10,000 ghosts, it was suddenly split in half. The ghosts that formed the king of 10,000 ghosts were all smashed into ashes. The sword light didn't dissipate. After splitting the king of 10,000 ghosts in half, it swept across again and heavily hit Shi Qingqing, who was hiding behind the king of 10,000 ghosts and waiting to kill Luo Qingtong. No! Seeing the sword light flying over, the light in Shi Qingqing's eyes was shocked to the extreme. She hurriedly waved the 100 Ghost banner in her hand to block it. However, just as the 100 Ghost banner was about to hit the sword light, the bloody light in Luo Qingtong's eyes turned cold. Under the cover of the sword light, he rushed in front of Shi Qingqing and summoned the life and death sword. Holding it in his hand, he fiercely slashed at the 100 Ghost streamer. From the very beginning, Luo Qingtong's goal was this 100 Ghosts banner. She could tell that Shi Qingqing's ability was completely bestowed by this 100 Ghosts banner. The latter was the one who was truly going against her. A saint artifact had a spirit. Although this 100 Ghosts banner was damaged, it was still able to bestow all kinds of powers to Shi Qing and even accept Shi Qingqing's sacrifice. It was clear that its intelligence had not been lost. Luo Qingtong wanted to capture it in one fell swoop, not giving it any chance to escape. Whoosh! Death Blade activated. The Yin Soul's most frightening power, the most evil power of death in the world, was activated at this moment. Luo Qingtong waved the life and death sword in her hand, and a black sickle-like light flashed across the sky. That light mixed with the sword light she had sent out with the wind and thunder sword, and no one could see any clues. It directly slashed out and fiercely chopped at the 100 Ghost banner. Buzz! When Luo Qingtong pulled out the life and death yin-yang sword and transformed it into the death blade, the 100 Ghost gonfalon started vibrating violently. Its damaged consciousness could vaguely sense the huge and terrifying threat that the death blade brought to it. This was the power of death that was even stronger, darker, and more terrifying than it was. Buzz! It trembled violently, wanting to fly out of Shi Qingqing's hand. But it was too late. Chapter 644. The black sword light struck its body. In an instant, the 100 Ghost banner let out a mournful cry like that of a resentful spirit. The rapidly surging power around it instantly dimmed. Suppression. The death blade carried a terrifying power of death, completely suppressing the 100 Ghost banner. Ah! As Luo Qingtong's sword struck the 100 Ghost banner, Shi Qingqing's body was also hit by the terrifying sword light that flew over. Without the 100 Ghost banner's protection, her little bit of high-level martial king's strength could not withstand a single blow from Luo Qingtong's heaven-conquering art. The words, Luo Qingtong, go to hell, seemed to still resound in the air. In the next second, Shi Qingqing's body had already been split into two by the sword light flying over. Not only that, a transparent soul was instantly extracted from her broken body. It screamed miserably as it was thrown into the 100 Ghost banner. How could this Yin Spirit Dharma artifact be so easy to control? Shi Qingqing's strength was insufficient. She had sacrificed her lifespan. Now that she had died, she was immediately devoured by the 100 Ghost banner. Her soul was extracted and absorbed into the 100 Ghost banner to be refined. Ah! Shi Qingqing's soul's screams echoed in the sky in an endless stream. Her body was sucked into the 100 Ghost streamer, and the countless resentful souls and malicious ghosts hidden within instantly swarmed forward, opening their mouths wide as they tried to bite her. In an instant, her body was covered by the vengeful spirits and malicious ghosts that swarmed over. 10,000 ghosts devouring the heart. This was the true 10,000 ghosts devouring the heart. Once Shi Qingqing's soul was completely devoured, she would become a new Yin spirit controlled by the 100 Ghost banner. Previously, Shi Qingqing had wanted to refine Luo Qingtong's soul. Now, she had become the one whose soul was being refined. She would be imprisoned in the 100 Ghost banner and lose her consciousness. She would never be reincarnated. Buzz! When Shi Qingqing's screams disappeared, Luo Qingtong also raised her hand to grab the 100 Ghost banner that had been completely suppressed by the death blade. Feeling the terrifying aura of life and death on her body, the 100 Ghost banner trembled violently. It wanted to struggle and fly away, but it was powerless. It could only struggle and tremble in that buzzing wail. Just as Luo Qingtong killed Shi Qingqing. Bang! 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 The other arenas also emitted bursts of violent attacks one after another. Then, a series of screams rang out. Everyone looked over and their eyes widened in shock. The ones lying on the ground were those who were lying on the ground. From Zhang Haopeng all the way down, everyone was lying on the ground miserably. Then, their bodies convulsed and died. The trash class team led by Luo Qingtong won a complete victory. Everyone's eyes widened. Apart from Ling Tianhan Yuan, Little Tyrant Yuan, Sima Ju, and Su Xiao were all students of the trash class. People who were determined to have no future actually won just like that? Everyone was indescribably shocked. At this moment, a cold voice suddenly rang out from the spectator stand opposite them. Return that 100 Ghosts banner to this saint. In the front stands, the sage state expert from the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin had a very ugly expression. Shi Qingqing was dead, and the 100 Ghost banner fell into Luo Qingtong's hands. Seeing that the latter was about to put it away, he couldn't hold back anymore. Chapter 645. That 100 Ghost streamer was bestowed to Shi Qingqing by this saint. She is this saint's disciple in name. Luo Qingtong, even if you defeat Shi Qingqing, you have to return that 100 Ghost streamer to this saint. As he spoke, he raised his hand and was about to take the 100 Ghost streamer into his hand. Luo Qingtong had just grasped the 100 Ghost streamer in her hand and was about to put it into the 9-story exquisite pagoda for Snowball's transformation. Hearing this, a bloody light flashed in her eyes, and she took a step back in an instant, just in time to avoid the suction force. Whoosh! She put away the 100 Ghost streamer with a flip of her hand. Then, with a faint, cold smile on her lips, she looked at the Saint Realm expert whose expression changed abruptly and said leisurely, "My apologies, Saint. Even if this 100 Ghost streamer was yours, it is now my spoils of war. In a life and death gambling match, life and death are determined by the heavens. As the dead, everything is at the disposal of the winner. Since Saint gave Shi Qingqing this 100 Ghost streamer, you should have been prepared for this." Luo Qingtong's words were merciless. She didn't care whether this thing was an opportunity that Shi Qingqing had obtained in the Kaiyuan mystic realm or if it really belonged to this saint. Now that it was in her hands, it was hers. The enormous soul power in the 100 Ghost streamer was very beneficial to Snowball's transformation. Of course, Luo Qingtong wouldn't let it go. Furthermore, Luo Qingtong's expression was cynical. This Saint Realm expert didn't have any interaction with Shi Qingqing before. How could he give a Saint Realm treasure to a disciple in name? Did he take her for a fool? If he really valued Shi Qingqing so much, why would he only take her as a disciple in name? He was just looking for an excuse to snatch this 100 Ghost streamer. Others couldn't sense the faint Saint Realm aura on it, but this Saint Realm expert should be able to sense it. Was he relying on his powerful strength to shamelessly snatch it from him? As soon as Luo Qingtong spoke, the Saint Realm expert's expression changed instantly. He had shamelessly asked for the 100 Ghost streamer, but he didn't expect Luo Qingtong to refuse. She was just a little student. What qualifications and strength did she have to refuse him? He immediately flew into a rage out of humiliation. He said, "The life and death gambling match is between you and Shi Qingqing. Since this saint gave it to her, this saint will naturally take it back. Luo Qingtong, I didn't expect you have such a greedy person. This 100 Ghosts banner is not something you should have. Give it back it." As he spoke, his aura, chi. The aura of the Saint Realm was like waves and tides, pressing towards Luo Qingtong. This Sage Realm expert is too shameless. Little Pig jumped up and down in Luo Qingtong's sleeve. "You don't deserve the 100 Ghost streamer, do you?" He was the one who wanted the 100 Ghost streamer and tried to snatch it. "How dare he say you're greedy? Damn it. Master, let's attack together." Little Pig was about to jump out of Luo Qingtong's sleeve as he spoke. At this moment, bang! A figure suddenly appeared in front of the Saint Realm expert, blocking the chi that was gathering around him and heading towards Luo Qingtong. "Saint Meng, you've gone too far. Suppressing a junior is not befitting of your status as a Saint Realm expert." Chapter 646. Old Master Lanue. Everyone was stunned when they saw the person standing in front of Saint Meng. They didn't expect Old Master Lanue to go against Saint Meng. The people from the Empire of Qin Academy and the Dean of the Tianyu Academy also came to their senses. Saint, why do you have to be so calculative with a junior? The instructor from the Empire of Qin Academy said with a frown. Luo Qingtong's talent and strength were really powerful. She had won the life and death bet, so she deserved to get the spoils. Saint Meng was a dignified saint. Why would he be calculative with a junior? Could it be that he was angry that Luo Qingtong killed Shi Qingqing, so he deliberately found an excuse to attack her? Since he was thinking this, the others were naturally thinking the same thing. They immediately tried to persuade the Saint Realm expert. However, the Saint Realm expert was determined to get the 100 Ghost streamer and ignored their persuasion. Old Master Lanue, I respect your family's heritage. This matter has nothing to do with your family. It was Luo Qingtong who provoked me. Ask her to return the 100 Ghost streamer to me, and I'll pretend this never happened. Otherwise. His eyes were fierce. Impossible. Luo Qingtong's voice was cold. Not to mention that she had a use for the 100 Ghost streamer. Even if she didn't, she wouldn't give in to the other party's oppression. Luo Qingtong hated it when people used force to oppress her. In her previous life, those who had been conceited and powerful and hunted her down had all died in the end. This Saint Realm expert could give it a try. The bloody light in Luo Qingtong's eyes intensified. The Saint Realm expert was enraged. You see, it's Luo Qingtong who doesn't know what's good for her. Old Master Lanue, get out of the way. Today, I won't give face to anyone. As he spoke, he suddenly waved his sleeve. Boom! A majestic and boundless power swept out from his hand in an instant. The spiritual qi in the surroundings seemed to have been frozen solid. Elder Lanue's figure was forced to move away. He was furious when he saw the power attack blasting toward Luo Qingtong. Saint Meng. Stop it. Touching Luo Qingtong is the same as touching our Lanue family. If you dare to make a move, we won't let you off. Saint Meng's expression changed when he heard the old man's words. But soon, his expression returned to normal. Elder Lanue, don't try to scare me with these words. He sneered. He's just a mere student. How could your Lanue family make a move? I know you might be unhappy with my actions, but I must obtain this 100 Ghost streamer. And this student who doesn't know what's good for him, he must be taught a good lesson. Otherwise, she wouldn't know that in this world, the strong are respected. She has no right to say anything in front of me. She dared to talk back to me and even tried to steal my item. She deserves to be taught a lesson. As he spoke, the power attack was like a huge wave. It was vast and boundless, as though it had activated countless spirit qi. It rushed towards Luo Qingtong like a huge wave. The space around her was also rapidly compressed under the effect of this power attack, trying to imprison Luo Qingtong within it. A Saint Realm expert comprehended the laws of heaven and earth and could control the spiritual qi around him for his own use. Luo Qingtong could feel that all the spiritual qi around her was being sucked dry. Chapter 647. The blood-red light in Luo Qingtong's eyes had reached its peak. She activated the pupil technique in her eyes, clenched her fists, and raised her hand to summon the life and death dual right sword. At the same time, Little Pig dashed out of her sleeve and appeared in front of her. Suddenly, an extremely dazzling light burst out from the tiny pink body. A 6-pointed star pattern appeared on his smooth little butt. It was spinning rapidly and was about to open. At this moment, a voice suddenly came from afar. How dare you! The voice was filled with anger, and it was as loud as thunder. With a boom, the Sage Realm expert's attack, which was about to reach Luo Qingtong, was shattered into pieces. At the same time, the spiritual aura that was rushing toward Luo Qingtong to imprison her instantly lost control and returned to its previous docile state. Swoosh! A figure appeared in front of Luo Qingtong in a hurry. He waved his long sleeves and glared at the Sage Realm expert on the spectator stand. Bastard! I'd like to see who dares to touch my precious disciple. Song Chang's face was filled with unspeakable anger. When he heard that something had happened to Luo Qingtong, he rushed into the Kaiyuan's secret realm in a hurry. However, he couldn't find any trace of Luo Qingtong. Instead, he found a trace of the light door with the help of the inscription aura. After that, he used a Herculean effort to get out of there. Before he could inquire about Luo Qingtong's whereabouts, he sensed the commotion over here. When he sensed that someone was targeting Luo Qingtong's aura, and that person was a Sage Realm expert, how could Song Qing tolerate it? This person is 2F** King Shameless. What's the cultivation of my precious disciple? What's the cultivation of the Sage Realm? How dare this person attack my disciple? Song Qing, who regarded Luo Qingtong as his life, went berserk. He couldn't care less about hiding his strength and attacked immediately. Who are you? After his attack was repelled, Saint Meng's expression turned ugly. Today, he had gotten off to a bad start. Every time he tried to deal with a student of the branch school, he was blocked again and again. It was simply intolerable. This is an internal matter of the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin. Please don't interfere. Sensing the aura in Song Cheng's body, Saint Meng suppressed his anger and said coldly. As for Song Cheng saying that Luo Qingtong was his precious disciple, he didn't believe it at all. If Luo Qingtong could really become the disciple of a Saint Realm expert, would she still need to stay in Tianyu Branch Academy? And I heard that she was assigned to the trash class. Even if it was Shi Qingqing and the others who made things difficult for her, it also meant that Luo Qingtong had no backing. Then, this Saint Realm expert definitely couldn't be her master. Could it be that the other party had also sensed the aura of the 100 Ghost banner and had come to fight for it? As he thought about this, Saint Meng glared at Song Qing coldly. On the other hand, the people of Tianyu Branch Academy were stunned when they saw Song Qing. Oh my god! A student of Tianyu Branch Academy said as if he was sleepwalking. Am I hallucinating? Why do I feel that this Saint Realm old man is Instructor Song Qing from the trash class? Another student beside him said, what do you mean by similar? He is. Oh my god. Instructor Song Qing from the trash class is actually a Saint Realm expert. The group of people stared at this scene with their mouths agape. They felt that the scene in front of them was even more fantastical than a fantasy. Needless to say, the instructors of Tianyu Branch Academy were even more shocked. Chapter 648. When they thought of how they had secretly mocked him for having a mental problem, their hearts collapsed. If they had known he was a Sage Realm expert, they would never have dared to do that. However, Luo Qingtong actually thought so for Song Qing. Especially the Dean of Tianyu Academy, Elder Lanyue, and the others, their expressions eased. Humph. As I said, she's my precious disciple. Naturally, I should take care of her matters. Song Qing snorted coldly. Then, he turned to Luo Qingtong and said, my good disciple, are you all right? Don't worry. With your master here, I guarantee that no one will hurt you. Song Qing patted his chest loudly. Luo Qingtong withdrew her power when he appeared. Little Pig also landed on the ground. Your cheat master is not bad, he said in Luo Qingtong's mind. Yes. Luo Qingtong nodded. Her eyes flickered as she looked at Song Qing. Luo Qingtong had never regarded Song Qing as her real master. She had only learned inscriptions from him for what they both needed. She never expected that he would come out to protect her. Looking at Song Qing's posture, which was like a mother hen protecting her chick, Luo Qingtong had a subtle feeling in her heart. At this moment, Saint Meng's voice sounded. Humph. Shameless boasting. He looked at Song Qing coldly. The other party was definitely here for the 100 Ghost streamer. Since that was the case, he would not be polite. He must get the 100 Ghost streamer. No matter what, he could not let others get away with it. Thinking of this, his expression suddenly turned cold. The aura around him suddenly rose. In the next second, boom! The aura around him surged. A force even more powerful than the one he used on Luo Qingtong suddenly erupted from his body. Like a tidal wave, it rumbled and blasted toward Luo Qingtong. Obviously, he did not care about Luo Qingtong's life or death. As long as he could get the 100 ghost streamer, everything would be fine. Seeing his attack, Song Cheng was instantly enraged. Bastard. He wanted his precious disciple to die. This Saint Realm expert was too shameless. Did he really think that he was powerful just because he was from the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin? Today, he would let him know that there was always someone better than him. With that thought in mind, the aura around Song Cheng suddenly exploded. At that instant, a formidable force burst out from his body. Both the quantity and the quality of the force were superior to Saint Meng's. Humph. How dare you be so impudent in front of me with such petty tricks? You don't have the ability to hurt my disciple. Song Cheng had a mocking expression on his face. In the next second, as Saint Meng's expression changed abruptly, he released the aura around him with a boom. Spirit Qi Plunder. The surrounding spiritual energy that was originally under Saint Meng's control and was crushing towards Luo Qingtong and him were all taken back by Song Cheng. Rumble. He controlled the aura of the spirit Qi and sent it crashing towards Saint Meng. Bang bang bang. A burst of explosive sounds suddenly came from the sky. The aura of the two sides collided fiercely in the air. Everyone around, except for Luo Qingtong, was shaken by the terrifying shockwaves of the explosion. The might of a Saint Realm expert was truly terrifying. Your cheat master is very powerful. Little Pig was astonished by the power of Song Cheng's attack. He nestled in Luo Qingtong's arms obediently and said, "Look at his strength. He will soon surpass the Saint Realm. That shameless Saint Meng is no match for him." Little Pig couldn't understand. Why would such a powerful Saint Realm expert want to study inscriptions? Moreover, his talent in inscriptions was so poor, yet he still wanted to study inscriptions in Tianyu branch. Little Pig was speechless. Didn't he know that every field had its own specialization? Did he think that everyone was as abnormal as Luo Qingtong? Chapter 649. Boom. Saint Meng's attack had been destroyed by Song Cheng. In the next second, his body was heavily hit by the attack. With a bang, he tumbled out. Instantly, his limbs were sprawled out, and he smashed hard on the ground with his face facing the sky. In an instant, dust flew everywhere. His bun was messed up. Just like that, his hair was disheveled, and he fell on the ground. His face was full of dust. 2 of his teeth were knocked out, and his mouth was full of blood. Pfft. Haha. Seeing Saint Meng fall like that, little Tyrant Yuan and the others couldn't help but laugh loudly. Serves him right. Who asked him to rely on his own strength to attack their boss? He didn't die from the fall. TSK, if only he had a pile of dog poop in his mouth at this time. Little Tyrant Yuan was overjoyed. Just as he said that, he heard Sima Ju say with an indifferent expression, "I just saw Su Xiao throw something over." The latter was stared at by them, and immediately pinched the corner of his eyes with an embarrassed expression. "That dog poop smell isn't very good. I just threw a medicinal liquid with the smell of cow poop over." Pfft. Little Tyrant Yuan and the others couldn't help but laugh again. Ling Yu gave Su Xiao a thumbs up and said, "Well done. Xiao. Next time, give me some too." This was simply disgusting, a must-have for home travel. Xiao was really a treasure. Who said that she was a trash alchemist? They were simply blind. Their boss's ability to teach people was really first class. The group of them couldn't help but laugh here. On the other side, Saint Meng was about to go crazy from anger. Just as he fell, he suddenly felt something in his mouth. Then, a liquid flowed out, filling his mouth. That strange smell was simply so disgusting that he wanted to vomit. Even his own aura couldn't wash it clean. Bastard. It must be that Saint Realm expert who appeared out of nowhere. Saint Meng, who was humiliated, instantly had his eyes turn red. "You're all courting death." He suddenly got up from the ground and looked at Luo Qingtong and Song Cheng with red eyes. No matter what the relationship between these two people was, they could forget about leaving this place alive. In the name of the Saint of the Sacred Academy of the Empire of Qin, I summon the defensive formation. Listen to my orders. Rise. He took out a token from his bosom, and suddenly stretched it out in front of him. Rumble. Following the appearance of the token. Suddenly, rays of light appeared on the historical tablet of the Academy. In the blink of an eye, the entire Tianyu Branch Academy lit up with the light of formations. Those rays of light instantly enveloped the entire Tianyu Branch like a spiderweb, enveloping the entire Tianyu Branch in a huge formation filled with a piercingly cold and tyrannical aura. A Saint Stage Array. F***CK. This Meng Sheng is the scum of the Saint Realm. When Song Cheng saw this scene, he was so angry that his beard stood on end. Using Tianyu Branch's formation just because he can't win? How shameless of him. How could the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin let such a person enter? F***CKU. Song Cheng couldn't help but curse. He waved his long sleeves and pulled Luo Qingtong to his side. My good disciple, don't be afraid. I'll bring you out even if I have to risk my life. When the time comes, we'll kill our way to the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin and settle accounts with this bastard. Luo Qingtong's eyes flashed with blood-red light. Her face was cold and her gorgeous face was filled with a bloodthirsty and cold aura. Chapter 650. No one had ever tried to kill her time and time again without paying the price. This Meng Sheng was courting death. If Song Cheng wasn't here, Luo Qingtong would have escaped with Little Pig when Meng Sheng attacked. However, since Meng Sheng was here, Luo Qingtong felt that she would be disgracing the name of Evil Eye if she didn't torture Meng Sheng to death. Master, do you believe me? Luo Qingtong looked at Song Cheng. The latter was stunned for a moment before he became wild with joy. My good disciple, you finally acknowledged me as your master. His eyes were brimming with tears. It wasn't easy. **T. He had pestered her for so long and even disregarded his reputation as a sage realm expert. However, he still couldn't make his beautiful but hard-hearted disciple change her mind and call him master. Now that Meng Sheng attacked, his disciple acknowledged him as her master. If he had known earlier, he would have found someone to rob his disciple, and then he would have acted as the master to save the disciple. It would have saved him a lot of trouble. Tell me. Song Cheng was overjoyed. He patted his chest and said, Disciple, I'll believe you no matter what you say. Was it easy for him to get such a disciple? He had to listen to his disciple. Whatever his disciple said was right. If she didn't agree, please refer to the above. Okay. Luo Qingtong looked at him with bloodshot eyes. We won't leave. Later, you will listen to everything I say. Okay. Song Cheng agreed without hesitation. His disciple wasn't an ordinary person. Listening to her was the right choice. Besides, if it really didn't work, it wouldn't be too late for him to risk his life. Anyway, it was just a matter of how serious the injury was. With this thought in mind, Song Cheng agreed without hesitation. Rumble. While the master and disciple were talking, the defensive array formation in the sky had taken shape. Numerous attacks as thick as dragons and snakes gathered in the sky and swam in all directions. Kill them. Saint Meng's voice was cold as he looked at Luo Qingtong and Song Cheng viciously. He didn't care about the people from the Empire of Qin and Tianyu Branch who were trying to stop him. Old Master Lanyue, Old Duke Ling, and the others were also frozen in place by the powerful aura of the defensive formation. The stronger one was, the heavier the restrictions. Boss. Seeing this, little Overlord Yuan and the others' expressions changed, and they were about to charge over as well. Don't come over. Luo Qingtong shouted sternly. The bloody light in her eyes flickered violently. Her eye technique could see through the attacks within the formation, but if little Overlord Yuan and the others were to barge in, she wouldn't be able to take care of them at all. I won't recognize anyone who comes over. Don't cause trouble. Ling Tianhan said in a low voice. Boss has teacher Song Cheng by his side. Nothing will happen. It's useless for us to go there, and will only be a burden to boss. F***CK. Yuan little overlord punched the ground. Damn it. I will remember that Meng saint. No matter what happens to boss in the future, I will F***king torture him to death when I become stronger. Su Xiao, Sima Ju, and Ling Yu didn't say anything, but their tense expressions and clenched fists betrayed their thoughts. We must become stronger. At this moment, they all had a strong desire in their hearts. They had to become stronger at all costs. They didn't want to be powerless when boss was in danger. Rumble. Chapter 651. The sky was filled with violent attacks, like a torrential downpour, sweeping down from the sky. This was the Tianyu Branch Academy's defensive formation. It was connected to the main academy through the Dapu district's historical tablet. It could only be activated when the academy was in a life-and-death situation. This was to prevent people from coming to the academy to seek revenge and injure the students inside. Even an ordinary Saint Realm expert would be killed by the intensity of the attacks. As for the powerful Saint Realm experts, it was inevitable that they would be injured. Not to mention those below the Saint Realm. Hence, when Song Cheng saw Saint Meng activate the defensive formation of Tianyu Branch, he was in a hurry to take Luo Qingtong away. He was afraid that something would happen to her. But now that his disciple had said she wouldn't leave, he would naturally risk his life to accompany her. Disciple, tell me what to do. Song Cheng's expression was extremely grave as he watched the dragon-like attacks raining down from the sky. The playful smile he had when facing Luo Qingtong was completely gone. His aura was surging. In an instant, he unleashed all his strength. At this moment, everyone could feel how powerful his aura was. He was on a completely different level from Saint Meng. If it weren't for the defensive formation of the Tianyu Branch Academy, Saint Meng would have been killed by him sooner or later. It was likely that the latter had sensed the gap between them, which was why he had decisively mobilized the Saint Realm formation of Tianyu Branch School. Rumble. Dragons and snakes danced in the sky. Attacks as thick as a person's arm filled the sky. Under the control of Saint Meng's mind, they came from all directions and swore to kill Luo Qingtong and the others. Everyone in the Tianyu Branch Academy could clearly feel the killing intent that filled the sky. Somewhere far away, on the peak of a mountain, Yi Qianxian seemed to feel something and raised his head slightly. Did something happen to that woman? He looked at the Shifang dragon ring on his left ring finger. It was flickering with a faint black light. At the same time, in the Tianyu Branch Academy, the 9 phoenix ring on Luo Qingtong's left ring finger was also flickering with a faint red light. Luo Qingtong did not notice this. All of her attention was focused on the violent attack that suddenly came crashing down from the sky. Looking at the dragon snake wantonly dancing and the violent and ferocious attack sweeping down, the corner of her lips suddenly raised into an extremely cold and wanton arc. He wanted to kill them with a saint stage array. She would let that Meng Xing know what a big mistake he had made. Master, 1 to the left, 2 forward. Can position, attack. The bloody light in Luo Qingtong's eyes flickered to the extreme. In the next second, she suddenly spoke to Song Cheng. All right. Looking at the direction Luo Qingtong pointed out, where the attacks were denser and more terrifying than anywhere else, Song Cheng was stunned. Then, he rushed over with Luo Qingtong. Left 1 forward 2, can position. Song Cheng stepped forward according to Luo Qingtong's instructions. Then, with a boom, he launched his attack. Boom boom boom. The power around him burst out violently. In an instant, it penetrated the violent attack that came crashing down. However, before Song Cheng could rejoice, rumble. Attacks from other directions came crashing down. Wah wah. Disciple, this method of yours won't work. Song Ching stared blankly at the violent attacks coming from other directions. He lifted his sleeves and rolled up Luo Qingtong, ready to go all out. Chapter 652. I can't. The young girl's smile was evil and cold, revealing a bloodthirsty beauty. Master, take a look again. Her voice was faint. The next second, boom. Just as Luo Qingtong's voice fell, a deafening and violent sound rang between heaven and earth. Following which, a violent attack suddenly flew back from the place where Song Cheng had blasted out. The attack flew all over the array formation. Bang, bang, bang. One by one, the attacks of the sage state were dissipated after colliding with it. Then, they turned into ownerless energy and were absorbed by it. In the blink of an eye, the attack became incomparably ferocious and thick. This is the attack that I just launched? Song Cheng's eyes widened as he stared at the terrifying force that was sent flying backward and colliding with each other rapidly in all directions. That attack flew out at just the right place every time. Not only did it disperse the attacks that were rushing towards them, but it also strengthened its own power to a terrifying extent. Oh my God! His precious disciple's talent in array formations was really heaven-defying. Song Cheng had not expected Luo Qingtong to be able to achieve such a level. He had thought that she would be able to bring him to avoid the attacks of the array formation like the one in his dormitory. He had not expected that she could use her own power to break the attacks of the array formation. Not only that, she could also use the power of the array formation to break the array formation. How deep did one's array formation attainments have to be able to see through the attacks of the array formation and use them? That old friend of his, the Sage State Array Formation Grandmaster, could only do this much, right? Song Ching thought about it and then took a deep breath. He decided that in the future, he would definitely bury his disciple's talent. Otherwise, if that fellow knew, wouldn't he come and snatch his disciple away? No. It was not easy for him to get this disciple, and he was still counting on her to teach him inscription techniques. He could not let anyone snatch her away. What he did not know was that Luo Qingtong's ocular technique could see through all array formations. To her, becoming a disciple was not an issue at all. She did not even need to learn array formations to be able to see through all the principles behind them. Rumble. While Song Cheng was still in shock, the attack had already shattered all of the array formation attacks that were heading towards them. Then, under the rebounding force of the last array formation attack, it flew rapidly towards Saint Meng. What? Seeing the attack coming towards him, Saint Meng, who still had a ferocious expression on his face, was stunned. Then, he quickly retreated backwards with a panicked expression. At the same time, he summoned the power of the array formation to protect him. Boom! The power of the defensive formation formed a huge shield in front of him. The power within it was vast and majestic. If Song Cheng had only used his own strength to launch this attack, it would have been quickly neutralized. But the attack was Saint Meng's attack, Saint Meng, Saint Meng use Meng in an instant. The defensive formation around Saint Meng was shattered with a loud bang. Chapter 653. Bam! His body rolled and smashed onto the ground. Before he could get up, Luo Qingtong's cold voice sounded again. Master, 2 from the right, 8 from the left. Kuan position. Attack. Upon hearing these words, Saint Meng's body, which was lying on the ground, twitched violently. He finally understood that the reason why Song Cheng's attack was so powerful was entirely because of Luo Qingtong's command. Who would have thought that this young girl, whom he had looked down on and wanted to snatch the spoils of war by force, would become the key to the victory between him and Song Cheng? Who would have thought that her attainments in array formations would be so terrifying? Her array formation skills were already comparable to those of a grandmaster of the Saint Realm. If he had known that Luo Qingtong was so talented, he might not have been blinded by greed and tried to snatch the 100 Ghosts banner. Or perhaps, he would have gone all out from the start and killed her. He would not have given anyone a chance to save her. As Saint Meng thought of this, his heart was filled with unspeakable regret. Song Cheng had already launched another attack under Luo Qingtong's command. He now knew how terrifying his precious disciple was in array formations. Instantly, he no longer had any worries and attacked more fiercely each time. Therefore, the group of people from Tianyu branch who were rooted to the ground stared dumbfoundedly at Saint Meng, who had been arrogant and resentful just a moment ago and had wanted to kill Luo Qingtong and Song Cheng. Under the protection of the array formation, Saint Meng was beaten to death by Song Cheng. The array formation's power could offset most of the power from Song Cheng's attack. Otherwise, Saint Meng would have died a long time ago. However, he would rather die. It would be better than being in such a miserable state. Ah! Saint Meng was once again sent flying by Song Cheng like a fly. His entire body was swollen and bruised, and there was not a single piece of unharmed flesh on his body. He was beaten around by Song Cheng like a ball. Originally, he had activated the array formation so that he could torture Luo Qingtong and Song Cheng to death. However, the more vicious and complacent he was before, the more miserable he was now. Luo Qingtong had completely taken advantage of the protective array formation. Not only would he not be able to gain any benefits from it, he would also be abused by Song Cheng. That was fine, but the problem was that he was now in a dilemma. If he activated the defensive formation, he would be beaten into a dead dog. Although he wouldn't die, it was a fate worse than death. But if the defensive formation was shut down, he would be in an even more miserable state. In his current situation, not to mention dealing with the uninjured Song Cheng, even Luo Qingtong might be able to easily kill him. The people from Tianyu branch were completely dumbfounded by what they saw. As far as they were concerned, a Saint Realm expert was a lofty and unreachable existence. However, Saint Meng was being tortured miserably. Furthermore, it was under the condition that the defensive formation had been activated. Wasn't this too shocking? Just how strong was Song Cheng? To think that he was able to ignore the defensive array and beat Saint Meng to such a state. Wasn't it said that the defensive formation could even kill a Saint Realm expert? Otherwise, why would Saint Meng be so arrogant just now? The crowd didn't know that this was all thanks to Luo Qingtong. They thought that Song Cheng's strength had already surpassed the Saint Realm. Instantly, they looked at him with incomparable reverence and respect. The Dean of Tianyu branch and the others had their mouths wide open. They didn't know if they should be glad that Luo Qingtong, a genius student, was still alive or beg Song Cheng to spare Saint Meng, a Saint Realm expert from the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin. Chapter 654. Rumble. After repeated collisions, Luo Qingtong calculated all the nodes and asked Song Cheng to launch 12 attacks at the same time according to her instructions. In an instant, the power of the entire protection array was seized by Song Cheng's power. The overwhelming power gathered like a stormy sea. Just like the previous attack on Luo Qingtong and the rest, it blasted violently towards Saint Meng. If this attack hit, Saint Meng would definitely die. The blood-red light in Luo Qingtong's eyes was piercingly cold. She said that she would torture Saint Meng to death and she would never go back on her words. Don't think that she couldn't do anything to him just because he was protected by the protection array. Rumble. The sky was filled with dragon snake attacks. Saint Meng's face twitched when he saw the terrifying attacks coming toward him. Only now did he know what it meant to lift a rock only to drop it on his own feet. Just as he closed his eyes and prepared to die, a voice suddenly rang out. What's going on? Who dares to attack a member of the Empire of Qin's Holy Academy in the territory of the Empire of Qin? As this voice rang out, in an instant, a figure suddenly appeared in the middle of the protection array. The stronger one was, the more restrained they would be in the protection array. However, this person's figure was as smooth as flowing water, as if he was not affected by the array at all. That person waved his hand. In an instant, the terrifying attacks that were surging violently towards Saint Meng stopped in their tracks. Then, that person casually waved his sleeve and the attacks disappeared into nothingness. Grand Supreme President. Saint Meng was stunned when he saw that person's figure. Then, he was ecstatic. Grand Supreme President, you have to seek justice for me. Saint Meng lay on the ground with his swollen eyelids and his swollen face. He cried bitterly to the old man in red who had appeared in the sky. Grand Supreme President, this student stole the treasure I gave to my disciple. I asked her nicely for it, but she refused. She and her master beat me up and even wanted to kill me. Grand Principal, the other party must have taken a fancy to my treasures. He dared to be so arrogant in the territory of the Sacred Academy of the Empire of Qin. I've already activated the defensive formation, but he still wants to kill me. Grand Principal, please help me. He cried bitterly as he lay on the ground with his buttocks raised. That look was as pitiful as it could get. How dare you! As soon as the Grand Dean arrived at Tianyu Branch, he left the enrollment team and went to find Luo Qingtong alone. However, the students of Tianyu Branch didn't have a good impression of Luo Qingtong and the others at that time. They deliberately gave him the wrong directions and deceived him that Luo Qingtong had gone out. The Grand Principal had been searching the entire way outside, but he still hadn't found anyone. He had a stomach full of anger, and when he heard this, he exploded. What kind of student is this? How can he be such a traitor? And you? Who are you? How dare you act so presumptuously in the branch of the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin? As he spoke, he pointed at Song Cheng and released his aura to crush Song Cheng. Oh, no. It's the Grand Principal of the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin. I can't defeat him. My dear disciple, I'll send you away first. Seeing the Grand Principal's aura pressing down on him, Song Cheng's expression changed abruptly. He raised his hand and was about to send Luo Qingtong away, but the latter stopped him. It's all right, Master. Luo Qingtong looked at the Grand Principal of the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin and smiled slightly. She had already recognized him. He was the weird old man who had given her the Heaven and Earth Dragon Soul Herb and the purple recommendation letter of the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin when she was in the Black Field. She didn't expect that he was the Grand Principal of the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin. No wonder he could take out the purple recommendation letter so easily. She moved her lips slightly and was about to send a message to him. Chapter 655. In an instant, a red glow flashed. An incomparably majestic aura, which was several times more powerful than that of the Grand Supreme Dean, suddenly flowed out from it. Yi Qianxian, who was thousands of miles away, sensed the danger on Luo Qingtong's side and transmitted his power over through the connection between the omnidirectional dragon ring and the 9 netherworld phoenix ring. This is... The Grand Supreme Dean, who was in the sky, was stunned when he sensed the aura that flowed out from it. Before he could react, there was a loud bang and the power that was suppressing Luo Qingtong and Song Cheng was blasted back at an extremely fast speed. Ah! Wait! There's a mistake. There's a mistake. The Grand Supreme Dean did not dare to retaliate when he saw the power of his aura being rebounded. Otherwise, the attack from the opposite side would be even more violent. Bang! Under the force of Yi Qianren's attack, his figure was shocked to the point where he was forced back several steps. He almost lost his balance and fell from the sky. That would be a huge loss of face. Damn it, Ming Zun was not even here, but the power transmitted over was still so powerful. The Grand Supreme Dean stared at the 9 netherworld phoenix ring in Luo Qingtong's hand. He had seen Yi Qianxian's attack with his own eyes. How could he not feel that it was Ming Zun's aura? Then, this young girl who had a spiritual weapon that was connected to Ming Zun's aura was the evil doctor child that he was looking for? The Grand Supreme Dean's face twitched as he thought of this. What the hell is this? The person that he had been looking for so long was actually standing right in front of him and was almost beaten up by him? The Grand Supreme Dean's face twitched even more violently as he thought of this. While his lips were twitching, the surrounding people were already stunned with their mouths agape. Oh my God! Everyone felt that they had never been frightened as much as they had been in their entire lives. The Grand Supreme Dean had personally attacked, but he was still beaten back. And it was obvious that he was beaten back. Instructor Song Cheng's strength was actually so powerful? The group of people widened their eyes. Saint Meng, who was lying on the ground, was even more dumbfounded. How was this possible? How could the Grand Supreme Dean's aura be repelled? He had exchanged blows with Song Cheng before. Song Cheng was clearly not that strong. Even with the power of the defensive formation, it was impossible to achieve such a feat. What was going on? He stared in disbelief in the direction of Luo Qingtong and Song Cheng. The latter was also shocked. Others might not know, but he did. Before he could even make a move, the Grand Principal had already been rebuked. Could it be that it was done by his precious disciple? As Song Cheng thought of this, he shook his head fiercely. Impossible. Even if his disciple grew 3 heads and 6 arms, and was so heaven-defying that he could ascend to the heavens, it was impossible for him to reach such a level. On the other hand, Luo Qingtong looked at the 9-nether phoenix ring on her left ring finger and felt Yi Qianqian's aura that had yet to completely dissipate. Her heart was slightly moved. Was it because of that man? Even though he was thousands of miles away, he still remembered her at all times? Luo Qingtong's heart felt as if it had been gently stung by something. It was an indescribable feeling. It was sweet and slightly numb. This feeling was very subtle, and Luo Qingtong was slightly stunned. Chapter 656. Xia, little doll, are you called Luo Qingtong? He stared at Luo Qingtong. Luo Qingtong was called back to her senses, and hearing his question, she instantly raised her eyebrows. Yes. Oh my God. Oh my God. Hearing her reply, the expression on Grand Principal's face was simply indescribable. What the hell is this? The person whom he had been searching for half a day was standing right in front of him and was almost injured by him. Not only that, he even almost provoked Ming Zun, that evil spirit, out. Thinking of how Yi Qianxian protected Luo Qingtong and thinking of how the other party didn't hesitate to break the principle of never contending for treasures and directly headed to the land beyond the clouds to look for him for Luo Qingtong, the expression on Grand Principal's face became even more splendid. Gosh, if he had known earlier, he would have looked for Luo Qingtong's portrait to take a look before he left. However, at that time, he wasn't sure if the other party was the evil Dr. Little Doll, so he didn't do so. What a scam. Grand Principal's face twitched badly. Xia, little doll, this is a complete misunderstanding. I didn't even know it was you earlier. He put on a bitter face. Don't be angry with me. I'm innocent because I didn't know. I don't dare to. Luo Qingtong looked at him and said leisurely, Grand Principal is so awe-inspiring. I'm afraid that if I'm not careful, I'll be smacked to death by you. When Luo Qingtong said these words, Grand Principal's face twitched again. Little doll, don't make fun of me. I've been searching for you for half a day. Grand Principal's face was scrunched up into a ball of bitter gourd. If it wasn't for the sake of finding you, would I need to come here? Who asked you to hide so tightly? You can't blame me for this. Who would have thought that such a low-level small country like Eastern Fence Country, a small marquis residence, could actually produce such a peerless genius like Luo Qingtong? If he knew, would he have almost injured her by accident earlier? He just didn't dare to believe it. Grand Principal lowered his voice and said humbly, Little doll, you see, I was wrong earlier, but didn't that person avenge you? Just now, you almost shattered my old bones. Moreover, if you hadn't given my purple recommendation card away, I wouldn't be bullied here. Speaking till here, Grand Principal instantly blew his beard and stared. This little doll still had the cheek to talk him. If she had gone to the Empire of Qin Empire, how would this matter be? As the two of them chatted back and forth, everyone around them was completely shocked and stood rooted to the ground. It was already shocking enough that the Grand Principal knew Luo Qingtong. She didn't expect the Grand Principal to be so humble in front of Luo Qingtong. Who exactly was Luo Qingtong? How could the Grand Dean treat him like this? When Saint Meng saw Grand Principal's arrival, he was pleasantly surprised. He was waiting for Grand Principal to kill Luo Qingtong and Luo Qingtong. He couldn't breathe and almost suffocated there. It's over, it's over. He rolled his eyes and thought while foaming at the mouth. If he had known that Luo Qingtong was valued by the Grand Principal, he would have come here to find her. Why would he covet the 100 Ghosts Gonfalon? No matter how good that damaged Sage Realm's celestial device was, could it be compared to Grand Principal's appreciation and promotion? Thinking like this, Saint Meng couldn't stand this stimulation anymore. Chapter 657. Saint Meng's fainting attracted the attention of the Grand Supreme Dean who was talking. Looking at the culprit who almost offended Luo Qingtong and Ming Zun, the Grand Supreme Dean snorted coldly. He raised his hand and swept Saint Meng's body off the stand with a bang. Shameless bastard, what a disgrace. As soon as Luo Qingtong's identity was exposed, the Grand Supreme Dean knew that Saint Meng's previous words were not true. Luo Qingtong was bullying others? She snatched the treasure he gave to his disciple and even joined forces with outsiders to kill him? Get out of here. If Luo Qingtong really wanted to kill him, once her identity was exposed, would he still have a chance to live? Moreover, who was behind Luo Qingtong? Blackfield and Ming Zun. Did that person lack treasures? As long as Luo Qingtong said the word, many treasures that even surpassing the Sage Realm would fight for would be found by him and sent to her. Why would she care about his trash? At first glance, he knew that Saint Meng wanted to deal with Luo Qingtong. After failing to use the protective formation, he wanted to kill her with a borrowed knife. He almost made a huge mistake because of her. Thinking of this, the Grand Supreme Dean could not hold back his anger. He had been looking for this evil doctor for so long. Was it easy for him? Just now, he was almost sent flying by Ming Zun. What the F***ck is a husky? He vented all his anger on Saint Meng. The power of this wave hit Saint Meng. In an instant, with a loud bang, Saint Meng was hit hard. Closely after that, he fell down from the spectator stand which was tens of meters high. Nobody knew whether his bones were broken or not. In short, he looked even more miserable than before. Take him back and hand him over to my good-for-nothing disciple. Ask him how he managed the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin. It's really shameful that this kind of trash can sneak into our Holy Academy. Let him reflect on himself for a few days. As for this Saint Meng, erase his name in front of everyone and expel him from the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin. The Grand Supreme President's punishment was extremely severe. If Saint Meng had not already fainted, he would have fainted again. This time, he would probably never wake up again. Expelling his name and crippling his cultivation. That was a severe punishment. Saint Meng, a Saint Realm expert, was as good as crippled. From a Saint Realm expert to an ordinary person. Moreover, the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin wouldn't give him any chance to recover. Unless Saint Meng was lucky enough to obtain those legendary items in the future, he would have to live as an ordinary person for the rest of his life. As for his enemies, it would be fine if they didn't know about him, but if they did, they would definitely rush over and make him suffer a fate worse than death. However, the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin had publicly announced that their names would be erased. How could those people not know about it? It could be said that it was already too late for Saint Meng. It was enough to see how miserable his end would be. Hearing the Grand Supreme President's words, Luo Qingtong was noncommittal. She looked at the old man in red in front of her with a faint smile. The old man felt goosebumps all over his body. What? Little girl, are you still not satisfied with this punishment? Then how do you want to deal with him? I'll listen to you, the Grand Supreme President said anxiously. No, I'm very satisfied. This outcome was very suitable for Saint Meng. On the contrary, it would be too easy for him to die directly. However, Luo Qingtong's lips curved slightly. Chapter 658. The saint token on Saint Meng's body was now in her hands. Grand Supreme Dean, I suffered a great shock just now. Is it all right for me to accept an apology gift? Pfft. As soon as Luo Qingtong said this, the sound of spitting water could be heard all around. Everyone stared at Luo Qingtong, dumbfounded. They really didn't know where her shock came from. Although any student would definitely be frightened by Saint Meng's oppression, Luo Qingtong was different. She handled it with ease as if she was the Saint Realm expert, while Saint Meng was like a clown jumping around and shouting. Towards the end, he activated the protective array and Luo Qingtong was unharmed under Song Cheng's protection. Instead, it was Saint Meng who was beaten to a pulp, okay? At this time, you're telling us that you suffered a great shock? The group of people who were truly frightened expressed their dissatisfaction. The Grand Supreme Dean's face was also twitching so badly that his beard was about to be whipped to the sky. What a sin! He looked at the saint token in Luo Qingtong's hand and felt a headache coming on. That, little doll, this saint token is really not suitable. That's the saint of the Sacred Academy. A special token that only people could have. The saint of the Empire of Qin had many privileges in the Sacred Academy and could even control the array outside the Sacred Academy. If he gave it to Luo Qingtong, it would be hard for him to explain. Oh. Luo Qingtong looked at him and nodded. All right, if this is not suitable, then give me a more suitable one, Grand Supreme Dean. She said with a smile, otherwise, what if you accidentally forget who I am one day and almost kill me with a slap? As she spoke, she looked at the Grand Supreme Dean with an expression that said, I don't mind if you give me your Grand Supreme Dean token. The Grand Supreme Dean's face was not only twitching, but his entire body was twitching. This girl was too treacherous. She actually used this to stop him. Just how long would she take to remember this careless mistake of his? The Grand Principal felt stifled. Looking at Luo Qingtong's face that was as beautiful as a flower, he finally waved his hand and shook his head with a pained expression. All right, all right, all right. Take it. However, I'll say this first. You can't use this command medallion casually. Otherwise, I won't be able to explain myself. Also, you can't just give it away. Thinking of how Luo Qingtong had casually given his purple recommendation letter to that blockhead Chu Lingfeng, the Grand Supreme Dean hurriedly added this sentence. Got it. Luo Qingtong naturally wouldn't make things difficult for the Grand Dean. She wouldn't give this saint token to anyone else. Hearing Luo Qingtong's promise, the Grand Dean was relieved. Soon after, he realized that he had given away a saint's token, but he still had to worry that the other party would give it away. This was definitely the most humiliating saint token in history. If someone else got their hands on this thing, they would treat it like a treasure. Unfortunately, he met a girl who didn't play by the rules. So, you're appeased now, right? Come, come, come. Hurry up. Take this year's end-of-the-year assessment's first-place acceptance letter. As the Grand Supreme Dean spoke, he threw out a purple notification letter. This was something that he had prepared long ago. This thing had the same effect as the purple recommendation letter that he had given Luo Qingtong previously. Chapter 659. Up until now, only Yuan Ma had enjoyed such an honor and treatment in Tianyu branch. The other students were at most Earth grade, and there were very few of them. Almost all of them were Profound grade and Yellow grade. Heaven, Earth, Profound, and Yellow grade, this was a kind of genius evaluation in the Empire of Qin's Holy Court. It was divided according to the students' performance in the year-end exam and the talent and strength they revealed. Heaven grade was the highest, and Yellow grade was the lowest. And the resources and privileges enjoyed by different geniuses were different. The higher the genius level, the more privileges and resources they enjoyed in the Empire of Qin's Holy Court. The Grand Supreme Dean gave out a purple notice letter. Everyone was shocked at first, but then they thought about it. Luo Qingtong's strength was indeed enough to become a heaven grade candidate. Not to mention other things, just look at the scene where she abused Shi Qingxing in the arena. If the latter was placed in any branch, she would have the strength of a heaven grade candidate. But in the end, wasn't she completely abused by Luo Qingtong? Even more, Luo Qingtong directly destroyed the 1,000 ghost kings summoned by Shi Qingqing with the strength of a martial emperor. With such strength, it would be unreasonable if she wasn't a heaven-grade candidate. However, just as everyone was thinking this, they saw the Grand Supreme Dean take out 7 purple notices and throw them to Luo Qingtong, saying, "Those students are your people, right? Hurry up. Distribute these purple notices. Don't give your one to others." Did the Grand Supreme Dean think it was easy? It was as difficult as ascending to the heavens for others to get a purple notice letter, but for him, it was like giving out cabbages. However, he had no choice. This girl in front of him loved to give her good things to others for no reason. Alright, in other people's eyes, they were good things, but she didn't care about them at all. So in order to prepare for a rainy day, he thought for a while and painfully took out a pile of purple notices and let Luo Qingtong distribute them herself. She couldn't possibly give her card away, could she? Everyone was dumbfounded by what they saw. Little Tyrant Yuan and the others were all dumbfounded when they received the purple notification letter. Was this F** King real? Purple notice, the proof of being a heaven-grade candidate. It was fine if their boss got it. After all, it lived up to its name. At most, Ling Tianhan was a genius who didn't lose to Yuanma. Now that his right hand had recovered and he could wield a sword with both hands, his strength was starting to recover. But they had it too. They looked at the notices in their hands, and were in disbelief. Little brat Yuan even pinched himself so hard that he cried for his father and mother before he believed it was true. The people who were even more in disbelief than them. Especially the head of the Tianyu branch. Seeing that almost all of his students were holding a purple notice, he didn't know what to say. He should be crying, of course. Or should he check if there was something wrong with his eyes and brain? These were the purple notices. 8 heaven-grade candidates. Heaven-grade candidates. Since when were heaven-ranked candidates of the Grand Qin Sacred Academy so worthless? The headmaster of the Tianyu branch deeply doubted that his own school had only produced a single heaven-ranked candidate, Yuanma, in all this time. Had he remembered incorrectly? Old Duke Ling, on the other hand, was grinning from ear to ear. The fact that their Ling family had 3 heaven-ranked candidates this time was like a dream. As expected, following evil Dr. Ghost, I was the best choice. Chapter 660. While everyone was shocked, Luo Qingtong glanced at the Grand President with a smile. Then she said to Little Tyrant Yuan and the others, "Why don't you come over and thank the Grand President for his favor? With this purple letter, if anyone tries to deal with you in the Empire of Qin's Sacred Institute, just say the Grand President's name. So that you won't be bullied." The Grand President's face twitched when he heard Luo Qingtong's words. This girl really didn't let go of any advantages. She wanted him to be their backer. So that they wouldn't be bullied by others for their heaven-grade exam spots. "Okay, I'll talk to them about this," he said with a toothache. "I promise I won't let anyone do anything to them because of this, okay?" As he spoke, he pulled Luo Qingtong down and avoided the group of people. He said, "That's right, you have to enter the Medicine Institute. I've already reserved the first seat for you. No one can snatch it from you." This girl's talent in alchemy was really too amazing. It would be a waste if she didn't go to the Medicine Institute. Of course, the Grand President had a secret idea in his heart that he couldn't tell others. This time, he had to rely on Luo Qingtong to save face for a certain grand event. "I don't plan to go to the Empire of Qin's Sacred Institute for the time being. Also, I won't go to the Medicine Institute." Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent. She said goodbye to Song Cheng and told him to wait for her in the dormitory. Then she left with the Grand President. She also had something to say to the Grand President. "What?" Hearing her words, the voice of the Grand Supreme Headmaster instantly rose. His voice was so loud that it could almost be heard by the entire Tianyu Branch Academy. "You're not going to the Empire of Qin's Sacred Institute? My little ancestor. Great aunt. What else do you want? You should have entered the Empire of Qin's Sacred Institute this year. But you gave that purple letter of recommendation to Chu Lingfeng, that blockhead. That's fine. In any case, that blockhead is also a talented person. It's the same for him to enter. But why didn't you come this time? The Grand President looked at Luo Qingtong, his eyes almost popping out. He had already sent out a bunch of purple letters of recommendation. He even gave out the Sage Medallion. This girl told him she wasn't going to the Empire of Qin's Sacred Institute? Did she believe that she would cry in front of her? The Grand President completely ignored Luo Qingtong's for the time being. Who asked him to be stood up by Luo Qingtong? Especially since the other party didn't seem to care much about the Great Qin Sacred Academy. I will definitely go. Yuan Mo was still in the Grand Qin Sacred Academy. Luo Qingtong wanted to break off the engagement legitimately and cut off all ties with Yuan Ma. Then, she would take back the engagement token that the Luo family had given to Yuan Ma. She will definitely go to the Empire of Qin's Sacred Institute. What's more, as the top sacred institute of the Empire of Qin's Sacred Dynasty, the Empire of Qin's Sacred Institute is full of geniuses. No other place can compare with it in terms of resources and techniques. If she doesn't go to the Empire of Qin's Sacred Institute, should she stay outside and grope her way to level up? Isn't there something wrong with her head? She will go there, but not now. Something happened to my grandpa. I have to deal with it. I'll go to the Empire of Qin's Sacred Institute later, Luo Qingtong thought for a while and said to the Grand President, about half a year to a year. Looking at Luo Qingtong, the Grand President felt a burst of luck in his heart. What should he do? Chapter 661. No, he had to restrain his dignity as the Grand Principal. Besides, he couldn't afford to offend the devil behind this girl. Thinking of this, the Grand Principal was stunned. What's wrong with your grandfather? Even with the power of the Black Field, you can't solve it? If Ming Zun isn't free, I can go there myself, he said. Half a year to a year is too long. Normally, who would be like Luo Qingtong, who wouldn't go to the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin even if they were admitted? Half a year to a year's leave? He hadn't even approved a month's leave, okay? The Grand Principal felt that Luo Qingtong was sent by God to test his patience. Only this little evil doctor dared to say this. If it were someone else, even if they were to take a day off, he would have given them a few tight slaps across the face and told them not to come back, okay? So I came to you to get in through the back door? Luo Qingtong looked at him innocently. In fact, it wouldn't be a problem for her to reapply to the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin, but it would be too troublesome. There was a ready-made back door here for her to rely on, so why should she waste the effort? Besides, it was meaningless to bully those students of the branch school. My grandfather's matter is a bit complicated, and it can't be solved by force. If it weren't for this, Luo Qingtong wouldn't have waited until now to discuss with the Grand Principal. She would have asked the people from the Black Field to bring old Master Luo back. It was just that the matter involved was a bit complicated. If she guessed correctly, Empress Dowager Yan she had a deep relationship with her grandfather, and the entire Luo family. She couldn't use force before she figured it out, so she could only go and see for herself. Luo Qingtong couldn't explain it to the Grand Principal at the moment. Besides, this was the Luo family's private matter, so Luo Qingtong didn't intend to publicize it. She immediately said, anyway, I want to take half a year to a year's leave. Will you allow it? Yes. I permit it. The Grand Supreme Dean gritted his teeth as he looked at Luo Qingtong. This girl really had him in the palm of her hand. My God, what kind of sin did he commit? 1 year. I'll grant you 1 year. However, you must arrive within a year. You can only arrive in advance and not later. If you can do it, I will approve it for you. The Grand Supreme Dean threw caution to the wind. This girl didn't play by the rules, but he just couldn't bear to part with her. Okay. Luo Qingtong agreed. 1 year of vacation was enough. In fact, she had considered the possibility of an accident, which was why she had said half a year to a year. If everything went well, she might be able to go to the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin in a short time. I hope this girl will keep her word. The Grand Supreme Dean muttered. He reluctantly wrote her a suspension permit and stamped it with his own Grand Supreme Dean order. In this way, even if Luo Qingtong didn't go to the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin for a year, her qualifications as a heaven-rank candidate would still be retained. Luo Qingtong looked at the suspension permit in her hand and smiled. Thank you, Grand Supreme Dean. Humph, the Grand Supreme Dean looked at her and snorted. Then he said, then you must go to the Pharmaceutical Institute when you come back. I'll leave the chief seat for you. No one will dare to say anything. He still hadn't given up. He wanted to lure Luo Qingtong to the Pharmaceutical Institute. Luo Qingtong was not interested in this at all. Chapter 662. Humph. You little doll, are you teasing me? Is there anyone in this world who is more talented than you, the evil Dr. Ghost Eye? She can already refine pills. She's still unwilling to go to the pharmaceutical department. How frustrating. She was still waiting for her to regain her face a year later. Don't worry, her ability to refine pills is absolutely shocking. Su Xiaoxiao's stability in refining pills was definitely the best that Luo Qingtong had ever seen. No other alchemy genius could compare to her. Luo Qingtong said as she called Su Xiaoxiao over. The latter appeared in front of Luo Qingtong and the Grand Supreme Dean like a little rabbit. When she saw the Grand Supreme Dean, her face was timid and shy. However, after seeing Luo Qingtong, she calmed down a lot. Grand Supreme Dean, boss. She called out timidly. Little doll, the genius you recommended to me is such a little rabbit. The Grand Supreme Dean had already asked someone to bring Su Xiaoxiao's information. With one look, the corner of his mouth instantly twitched to the sky. A student from the trash class, the speed of refining pills was more than twice as fast as others. That was fine, but the problem was that the effects of the medicinal liquid refined by her hands would be reduced by half for no reason. This was really enough of a genius. The Grand Supreme Dean had never seen a talent that was more outlandish and trashy than this. Was this little doll making fun of him? Even if she didn't want to go to the pharmaceutical department, she didn't need to be like this. The Grand Supreme Dean blew his beard and stared. Luo Qingtong faintly smiled. Little rabbit? As a combat alchemist, Su Xiaoxiao, even if she was a rabbit that even wolves dared to bite. Luo Qingtong didn't refute and only said to Su Xiaoxiao, Xiaoxiao, the Grand Supreme Dean wants to see your refining ability. Luo Qingtong was someone who had been trained by herself, so she had absolute confidence. Su Xiaoxiao could definitely surprise the Grand Supreme Dean. Although Su Xiaoxiao was shy, she was absolutely obedient to Luo Qingtong. As soon as Luo Qingtong finished speaking, her hands were already moving like a phantom. It was truly a dazzling performance. Su Xiaoxiao's hands were filled with an endless amount of medicinal liquid, which transformed into a series of mirages. Su Xiaoxiao was extremely sensitive to the medicinal properties of medicinal liquids. This was almost a natural talent. If it wasn't for the limitations of her speed and effectiveness, she would definitely be the world's most talented alchemist. However, after going through Luo Qingtong's guidance and training, she completely abandoned some of the principles of ordinary pharmacists. Since the concoction speed was slow and the effect was low, she would use other medicinal liquids to catalyze it. She was still able to display an effect that wasn't inferior to that of an ordinary genius alchemist. In fact, because of her innate sensitivity towards medicinal liquids and the stability of the medicinal liquids she refined, it was even more breathtaking and surprising. At first, the Grand Supreme Dean didn't care. He didn't think that Su Xiaoxiao would be able to display any amazing ability. As the Grand Supreme Dean of the Holy Court of the Empire of Qin, he had seen countless geniuses. There were really too few that could move him. However, following Su Xiaoxiao's movements, his eyes slowly widened and then fiercely widened. This the ability to mix medicinal liquids was simply shocking. The Grand Supreme Dean didn't know that there was actually someone in this world who could do this. My God! Just one medicinal liquid, this little rabbit-like student must have layered at least dozens of medicinal liquids, right? If it wasn't for the fact that she didn't have enough strength and couldn't control the majestic and vast power of the medicinal liquids after layering, it wouldn't be a problem for her to continue layering and mixing them. What kind of people were around this little child of the evil doctor? My God! Chapter 663. This. How did you do it? Seeing Su Xiaoxiao's almost terrifying overlaying ability, the Grand Supreme Dean instantly jumped up. Just by relying on the stability of this medicinal liquid, Su Xiaoxiao's so-called trash talent from before had been completely reversed. It was originally the trashiest and most impossible talent, but now it didn't exist in Su Xiaoxiao's body. What was going on? Did you comprehend it yourself? He looked at Su Xiaoxiao and asked. No. Boss taught me. As Su Xiaoxiao spoke, she turned to look at Luo Qingtong, her eyes flashing with a fine and bright light. Boss said that if I can't walk the same path as others, then I should open up a path that belongs to me, so that others can't catch up to me no matter how hard they try. Because of Luo Qingtong's words, she, who was originally destined to be trash, who shouldn't have accomplished anything, opened up another path and became a combat pharmacist. Su Xiaoxiao had never thought that a person like her, who was determined to have no achievements in the future, would actually have such a shocking ability to refine medicine under Luo Qingtong's guidance after meeting her. All her glory came from the beautiful red-clothed girl in front of her, who was as charming as blood. Luo Qingtong was her life's greatest salvation. She was the one who told her how to struggle out of the mire, how to walk out of her own world. Boss is the most powerful. She nodded heavily. Hearing this, the Grand Supreme Dean's eyes instantly lit up. He didn't expect it. This evil doctor's ability to teach people was so amazing. Her understanding of medicine refining was so profound. That's right, she was an alchemist. She had already jumped out of the realm of alchemists. Thinking this, the Grand Supreme Dean felt stifled again. If Luo Qingtong was willing to enter the pharmaceutical courtyard, she would definitely sweep them all away. But this girl wasn't interested. But fortunately, having Su Xiaoxiao was already pretty good. This ability to refine medicine was already enough to show disdain for most of the geniuses in the pharmaceutical courtyard. Thinking this, the Grand Supreme Dean suddenly said, "All right, you, Su Xiaoxiao, right? Follow me into the herb garden. You can choose any of the resources inside. If this little fellow was properly nurtured, he would definitely become one of his trump cards in the future." As for Luo Qingtong, the Grand Dean felt stifled and said, "Evil Dr. Little Doll, since you don't want to come to the medicine courtyard, then just come with the title of honorary chief disciple. You can still get the resources, but you don't have to come to the Pharmaceutical Institute for classes. How about it? You can't refuse this again. Those resources will benefit the people around you a lot. It could help them grow quickly. Others can't even dream of it. Especially this little girl. If she's able to obtain the various privileges and benefits within it, then it would simply be a great improvement to her alchemy strength." Before he could finish his words, Luo Qingtong had already said, "Deal." It was just a title, and he could get so many benefits. Why wouldn't he agree? Luo Qingtong just didn't want to waste her time in the pharmaceutical department. Since there were free benefits, she was naturally willing. However, I don't want to go in with my own identity. Arrange the identity of Luo Qi for me. In any case, this old man just wanted her to go in with a title. It didn't matter what the title was. Luo Qingtong didn't want to attract so much attention before she even arrived at the holy courtyard of the Empire of Qin. She had even taken half a year to a year off. Chapter 664. With that thought in mind, she immediately said to the Supreme Dean. The Grand Supreme Dean had also considered this problem and agreed immediately. After all, if one of them entered 2 academies, and one of them was the honorary chief disciple, it would cause too much trouble. Although he was the Grand Supreme Dean, there were still the elders in the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin. It would be troublesome to explain. Moreover, this girl had to apply for leave during this period. It would be better to just use an alias. In this way, he could hide her and use her as his trump card in the future. While the two of them were talking, the outside of the Tianyu Empire was in chaos. Buzz. After Luo Qingtong and the Grand Supreme Dean left, the end-of-year examination ended. Instantly, the steel of history lit up. Suddenly, a dazzling light shot up to the sky. A line of words appeared in the sky. The entire capital of the Tianyu Empire and even the nearby cities could see it. A loud and clear voice spread in all directions. Tianyu branch of the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin, Luo Qingtong, Intermediate Martial King Realm. First place in the end-of-year examination. First place in the Steel of History. Accepted as a heaven-grade candidate by the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin. Forever engraved in the history of Tianyu branch. As the voice rang out, the words in the sky changed instantly. Instantly, a series of points and achievements appeared on the Steel of History. Participated in defeating a Saint Realm expert. Competed for the first prize in the Steel of History, cleared 10 channels. Looking at the words that appeared on the Steel of History, everyone in the capital of the Tianyu Empire was stunned. Luo Qingtong? Intermediate Martial King Realm? First place in the end-of-year examination, first place in the Steel of History, accepted as a heaven-grade candidate by the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin. Forever engraved in the history of Tianyu branch? Participated in defeating a Saint Realm expert, cleared the Steel of History, cleared the Steel of History? Oh my God! Everyone stared at the words that appeared on the Steel of Tianyu branch. They almost thought that they were dreaming and hallucinating. Luo Qingtong? Isn't that the fiancé of the 5th prince who came from a low-level country? Didn't they say that she was born mediocre and was not worthy of the 5th prince? What's with the announcement from Tianyu branch? Everyone was shocked. Everyone in the imperial capital of Tianyu Empire was discussing this matter crazily. What Luo Qingtong had achieved was something that even Yuan Ma hadn't achieved in his prime. Was such a person mediocre? Not good enough for Yuan Ma? Was this a joke? How blind were Tianyu's royal family and Yuan Mo to see such a peerless pearl as a fish's eye? Looking at the words in the sky, the people of Tianyu Empire felt that the destruction of Tianyu Empire's imperial family was justified. To be so blind, if you don't die, who will die? No wonder they were so blind as to offend evil Dr. Ghost Eye. Previously, everyone thought that their sudden extermination was too tragic. Looking at it now, it was his own fault for being blind and courting death. Who could he blame? On the street, a young lady who used to adore the 5th prince raised her head and looked at the words that appeared in the sky. She couldn't help but mutter to herself, I used to think that the 5th prince was very powerful. Now, it seemed that he was also blind. I really misjudged him before. With Luo Qingtong's talent and strength, the 5th prince didn't even notice it. It could be seen how much he disdained and ignored Luo Qingtong and the Luo family. Even so, he still refused to cancel the engagement. Who knew what his intentions were? In the past, the people who felt that the 5th prince was wronged and that he was affectionate and kind to the Luo family and Luo Qingtong now despised him. Chapter 665. Weng. After Luo Qingtong's name appeared, Ling Tianhan's and the others' rankings were announced. The names of the heaven-grade candidates stunned everyone in the Tianyu Empire. Oh my God, are they hallucinating because they're not awake yet? Forget about the previous Luo Qingtong. Now all the candidates behind her were heaven-grade candidates. 8 heaven-grade candidates. Everyone was dumbfounded when they heard the names of the heaven-grade candidates. What? Heaven-grade candidates were worthless in the future? Everyone had the same thought as the dean of the Tianyu Empire. They wondered if they remembered wrongly that Yuan Ma was the only heaven-grade candidate. Only those from the Tianyu branch who had witnessed the scene with their own eyes knew the truth. It was all thanks to Luo Qingtong that the Tianyu branch could have such a grand occasion, which was enough to be remembered in the history of the Tianyu branch. No one could surpass it. It was because of this girl that the Grand Dean generously gave out 8 purple notices for heaven-grade candidates. She created a record that no one in the Tianyu Empire could surpass. Those who had looked down on Luo Qingtong and the little tyrant Yuan and mocked them for seeking death in the end-of-year exam and deserved it were the Tianyu Empire's students. Now that he saw little Overlord Yuan and the others being engraved on the Academy's historical steel and spread in all directions with the light of the Academy's historical steel, he immediately felt an indescribable jealousy. If they had been kinder to Luo Qingtong back then. If they had been closer to Luo Qingtong back then. Now, would their fates be different as well? Would he also be able to shine brilliantly like this? Would he be able to break free from the ordinary and step onto the path to the heavens? The Holy Institute of the Empire of Qin. Everyone in the Tianyu Empire dreamed of entering it. But only 10 spots were accepted each year. Some people stayed in the Tianyu Empire until their youth was gone, but they still couldn't get a single spot. How long had it been since the little tyrant Yuan and the others entered the Tianyu Empire? They were still students of the trash class, but they were like carps that jumped over the dragon gate. Not only had he become a student of the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin, but he was also the most respected heaven-grade candidate. All of their achievements were no less than Yuan Ma's. Their previous ridicule, disdain for the other party, how laughable it is now. The person they were mocking was now standing at the pinnacle of light. He did not even bother to look at them. Buzz buzz buzz. Rays of light lit up on the historical tablet. Every time a line of words appeared, a voice would read out the person's information. Luo Qingtong came out of the Grand Dean's room and heard the announcement in the sky. She didn't need to leave the Tianyu branch school to imagine the chaos in the Tianyu Empire. A young girl from a low-level country had taken first place in the year-end examination, suppressing the glory of the former #1 genius of the empire. No matter who it was, they would find it hard to believe. The stain that had been splashed on the Luo family and Luo Qingtong had all been washed away. In the eyes of the people of Tianyu Empire, Luo Qingtong and the Luo family were no longer unworthy of Tianyu Empire's royal family and Yuan Mo. It was that they were not worthy of being mentioned in the same breath as her. And this was only the beginning. The humiliation and disdain that Tianyu Empire's royal family and Yuan Mo had brought to the original owner, she would return it all. Yuan Mo, wait for me in the Holy Institute of the Empire of Qin. Chapter 666. For the entire day, the entire Tianyu branch was immersed in great excitement and shock. It was only when night fell that it gradually quieted down. After sending off the excited little tyrant Yuan and the others, Luo Qingtong lay on the bed and rubbed the 9 phoenix ring in her hand. For some reason, she suddenly wanted to see Yi Qianxian. Thinking of how that man protected her during the day and how he still transmitted his power to her even when he wasn't around, Luo Qingtong's heart stirred and she injected her spiritual power into the 9 phoenix ring. She didn't know how to use this thing. But since Yi Qianxian could transmit his consciousness and power through this ring, she should be able to go over as well, right? As Luo Qingtong thought this, her vision turned black with a whoosh and her consciousness appeared in an empty space in an instant. Luo Qingtong looked around and found that this space was the same space in the 9 phoenix ring that Yi Qianxian had led her into before. So how should she go over to Yi Qianxian's side? As Luo Qingtong thought this, she tried to disperse her consciousness and carefully sense this space. Soon, she felt a trace of connection, as if it was leading this space and another space together. Was that Yi Qianxian's ring? As Luo Qingtong thought this, she immediately shrunk her consciousness and spiritual power and swept over following that trace of connection. Whoosh! Her consciousness figure appeared in a black space. This was the consciousness space in Yi Qianxian's decimal dragon ring. Thinking of this, Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes and the corners of her lips curled up in an instant. The consciousness spaces of these 2 rings were indeed connected. If Yi Qianxian could find her through his ring, then she could also find him through this ring. She wondered if that man would be shocked when he saw her soul appear. As Luo Qingtong said this, her figure instantly swept over and she rushed out through the exit of the decimal dragon ring's consciousness space. Yi Qianxian. She happily jumped out of the 10-directional dragon ring. Look, I've found a way to find you. Are you surprised? You mean? Are you surprised? Before she could finish her sentence, Luo Qingtong's voice was stuck in her throat. There was no other reason. The room was filled with mist. The man stood up from the bathtub and walked out. Broad shoulders, narrow buttocks, and a tight waist. The 8-pack abs on his lower abdomen were extremely attractive. His body was still dripping with water, leaving streaks on the ground beneath his feet. His long hair was wet and draped over his shoulders. It was as black as a waterfall and as smooth as silk. Coupled with the man's indescribably handsome face, which was like the most perfect creation of the creator of the world, he was both enchanting and charming, and also a little wild and unruly. At this moment, Yi Qianxian was preparing to put on his clothes. Half of his body was already draped in a black robe. One of his hands had already reached into his sleeve, while the other hand was raised. The view in the middle was wide open, revealing his lean and muscular chest. Especially between her legs, oh my God. When Luo Qingtong came out, she was faced with such a scene. She thought of what she had just said. What was there to be surprised? What was there to be surprised? Instantly, Luo Qingtong's lips twitched. **T, this was more than a surprise. This was simply a shock. That. Can you continue? Luo Qingtong covered her eyes. Chapter 667. Bang! Yi Qianxian leisurely put on his clothes, then waved his hand. Luo Qingtong's body instantly rose into the air, and he threw her onto the couch next to him. Then, the man's body, which was still hot from his bath, pressed down on her, firmly imprisoning her between his arms and the couch. This sovereign is very surprised, and I like this surprise very much. Yi Qianxian's voice was hoarse. He looked at Luo Qingtong with a fiery gaze. When he sensed that Luo Qingtong might be in danger, he had just solved a problem, and there was still the smell of blood on his body. He had originally planned to find this woman after taking a bath, to see what had happened to her over there, but he didn't expect her to come to him on her own accord. Looking at this little woman who suddenly appeared in front of him, Yi Qianxian's eyes were indescribably deep and solemn. You came to find this sovereign so directly, did you miss this sovereign? Yi Qianxian's eyes shone brightly. Thinking that this woman might have thought of coming to find him immediately after being bullied, his heart was filled with indescribable joy. It was so full that it seemed like it was about to overflow. This woman had always been unwilling to rely on him, and would rather solve everything on her own. Now that she could think of him, even if it was already after the incident, did it mean that she was slowly starting to get used to his existence? Yes. I missed you. Suddenly being thrown onto the couch by Yi Qianxian, Luo Qingtong was stunned for a moment. Then, she narrowed her eyes, smiled wickedly, and wrapped her arms around Yi Qianxian's neck. But now it seems that Lord missed me more. Competing with her in sweet talking? She wouldn't lose. Luo Qingtong's breath smelled like orchids, and she approached Yi Qianxian with a devilish charm. The man's eyes deepened, and he couldn't help but lower his head. At this moment, Luo Qingtong's body suddenly shrunk with a bang. The originally evil and charming young girl suddenly turned into a cute little loli with 3 heads. Her originally overbearing and seductive action of wrapping her arms around Yi Qianxian's neck also turned into Luo Qingtong adorably hanging onto Yi Qianxian's body. The sudden turn of events stunned both of them at the same time. When Luo Qingtong saw Yi Qianxian's face darken, she couldn't help but burst out laughing. Haha. I swear it wasn't me. As she spoke, in order to prove her innocence, she twisted her waist and raised her head to kiss him in her mini loli form. Humph, Yi Qianxian snorted coldly. He lowered his head and mimicked Luo Qingtong's kiss. The kiss that was supposed to land on his chin landed on his lips instead. At the same time, he opened his mouth and sucked on Luo Qingtong's little tongue. The cute little loli, Qingtong, was already stunned. This man, she was already in such a state, but he still had the heart to do it? Wasn't this taste a little too strong? At this moment, Luo Qingtong seemed to have forgotten that she had laid hands on little Ming Zun in the past. Fortunately, Yi Qianxian wasn't as unprincipled as she thought. He only bit her little tongue with a black face and then let go of her. Your strength is still too weak to bear the full manifestation. Not counting the moment when she came out, Luo Qingtong's body shrunk. Yi Qianxian hugged the shrunken little loli, Qingtong, in his arms. Hugging the shrunken Luo Qingtong made him very uncomfortable. Although she was still fragrant and soft, Yi Qianxian still preferred the feeling of the original Qingtong nestled in his arms. It didn't count. Bei Qing and Feng Yu looked at her, then looked at Yi Qianxian. Master, this? Bei Qing's voice hid an unspeakable worry. It was really not safe for the evil doctor to appear here. There were too many people here who were against Master. If this strand of the demonic doctor's soul was damaged because of this, he was afraid that Master would go berserk without regard for anything else. It's fine. Yi Qianxian's expression was indifferent when he saw Bei Qing's worry. I won't let anyone hurt her. Moreover, she won't be here for long. Activating the dragon and phoenix rings required a lot of energy. With Luo Qingtong's current strength, even if she shrunk her body, she wouldn't be able to appear for long. Chapter 669. Yes. With Yi Qianxian's words, Bei Qing and Wind Feather didn't say anything else. What's more, although the master's words were indifferent, there was a hint of joy in them, and these attendants could still feel it. Their master was actually very happy that the evil doctor had manifested herself to come see him. But speaking of which, the evil doctor was too fierce. They didn't think that she would be able to find the method to use the dragon phoenix dual rings and manifest herself to come see their master. It had to be known that those were not ordinary magic tools. When their master had returned to take the 10-directional dragon ring, he had angered some people. Now, they were constantly thinking of causing trouble for their master. Luo Qingtong was carried down by Yi Qianxian. She lay on Yi Qianxian's chest, poking her head out to look. All around them were strange flowers and strange trees. With Luo Qingtong's eye technique, she could naturally see that each and every one of these strange flowers and trees contained an aura of spiritual strength. It was countless times stronger than the spiritual treasures that tens of thousands of people fought over in the true Spill continent. To put it bluntly, the so-called spiritual treasures of the true Spill continent were nothing but trash in front of these strange flowers and strange trees. And these strange flowers and strange trees, as far as Luo Qingtong's eyes could see, they were everywhere. No wonder it was said that the Blackfield's underworld revered never participated in the struggle for the treasures of the true Spill continent. In such a situation, it would be strange if Yi Qianxian took a fancy to the treasures of the true Spill continent. Was this the place that Elder Yu had mentioned? She didn't know where this place was. As Luo Qingtong was thinking, she suddenly felt Yi Qianxian's figure stop. Get out. The man's voice suddenly sounded out. In the next second, peng peng peng. Figures instantly screamed and flew out from the palace in front of them. Ah! The voices were charming, but they were slightly distorted. Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows and looked at the figures flying in the air. Yes, the gauze she was wearing was very good. What should be covered was not covered, and what should be exposed was all exposed. Some of them were even blasted out of the building while naked. The white glow on her body was extremely bright under the moonlight in the dark night. Is that your palace? Luo Qingtong blinked and looked at Yi Qianxian. Her voice was no different from usual, but Bei Qing and Feng Yu broke out in cold sweat. Looking at their master's face, which was even darker than usual when he was furious, the two of them knelt down bitterly. Master, please don't be angry. It's our fault for not fulfilling our duties. These people were really everywhere. How long had it been since they left? He had actually stuffed a bunch of people in, and the evil doctor just had to bump into them. Looking at his master's ugly face and the strong murderous intent in his eyes, Feng Yu felt that he had to explain for his master. Otherwise, his master would go crazy. Thinking of this, he quickly said, "Lord Evil Doctor, please don't misunderstand. These people have nothing to do with Master. They were all deliberately stuffed in here." When he said this, he didn't know how to continue. Yi Qianxian had a special physique, the heavenly vein body, which was incomparably tyrannical. Everyone wanted to have him as their heir. Especially those people. They wanted his master to die, but they also wanted him to leave behind his bloodline. Originally, under his master's ruthless methods, they had already stopped. Chapter 670. But some time ago, there was news that his master had a child outside, and it caused an uproar here. There were all kinds of people trying to give him women. There were even people who wanted to go to the true Spill continent. His master came back to deal with this matter. But how could he tell this to the evil doctor? Was he supposed to say, "Sorry, Lord Evil Doctor. We thought you were pregnant with Master's child, so we made a big mistake"? Feng Yu felt that if he really said that, his fate would be worse than being punished by his master. For a moment, his voice weakened. At this moment, Yi Qianxian's cold voice sounded. "Because you are pregnant with my child, they can't wait to give you women." Pfft. As soon as Yi Qianxian finished speaking, Luo Qingtong and Bei Qing's Feng Yu almost choked. Oh my God. Master said it out loud. He said it out loud. Bei Qing and Feng Yu were both thinking the same thing. Luo Qingtong's eyes widened, and she looked at him with a dumbfounded expression. I. When did I get pregnant with your child?" Even someone as evil as Luo Qingtong was stunned by Yi Qianxian's words. "Have some shame. Have some shame in the way you speak. They didn't do anything between them. This man was stuffed with a bunch of beauties, and he blamed her. When I was in the Luo family, the imperial family of Tianyu told me." Yi Qianxian's expression was indifferent. "They said it's been 3 months. At that time, everyone heard it. If it weren't for this, Bei Qing and Feng Yu wouldn't have misunderstood, and the news wouldn't have spread here." He lowered his head and looked at Luo Qingtong's belly. He raised his eyebrows and said, "So, the child isn't mine? You have another man?" F***ck. Luo Qingtong hadn't cursed in a long time. Damn the imperial family of Tianyu. If she knew they were slandering her like this, she wouldn't have let them die so easily. Especially Emperor Tianyu's group, it was too easy for them. Luo Qingtong gnashed her teeth. She only knew that the royal family of Tianyu wanted her and the Luo family. She didn't know that these people could even make up a story about her pregnancy. How much did they want Yuan Mo to be cuckolded? Could the royal family of the empire have any sense of shame? Luo Qingtong felt a little depressed. She then looked at Yi Qianxian and said, "So, they thought that I was pregnant with your child, so they had all kinds of ideas about you and stuffed people into your side? If that was the case, then it was really her fault." Yi Qianxian narrowed his eyes. "My heavenly veins body is incomparably powerful." Yi Qianxian didn't finish his words, but Luo Qingtong already understood what he meant. The heavenly vein body was incomparably powerful, and Yi Qianxian couldn't live past 28 years old. Those people obviously wanted to keep his children. If someone inherited his talent and physique, wouldn't that be the best way to control puppets? Moreover, even if they didn't inherit his powerful physique completely, it would be amazing if they could inherit half of it. What did those people think he was? A tool to reproduce? Were they so sure that this man was dead? Luo Qingtong felt a burst of anger in her heart. She raised her head and looked at the man's handsome face. She said word by word, "Don't worry about them. Yi Qianxian, you won't die." She would save him. Chapter 671. Luo Qingtong's soul did not last long with Yi Qianxian and soon dissipated. Her consciousness returned to her body, and Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed. She would definitely save that man. Once she settled the matter with her grandfather, she would use all her strength to increase her strength. She did not believe that the Heavenly Pulse Constitution could not be saved. Even if she had to go against the heavens, she would save him. Luo Qingtong had been reckless all her life and had never believed in fate. She only knew that no one could stop her from doing what she wanted to do. Luo Qingtong left the Tianyu Branch Academy the next day. She had already informed Little Overlord Yuan and the others. Song Cheng, on the other hand, had gone to the dormitory to look for Luo Qingtong after she had settled the matter with the Grand Dean. However, he could not find her. He had only left a note saying that he had something urgent to attend to and had left first. Looking at the note, Luo Qingtong frowned slightly. She did not know why Song Cheng had concealed his identity as a saint and stayed in the Tianyu Branch Academy. However, the latter had exposed his hidden identity for her. She did not know if it had anything to do with this urgent matter. Thinking of this, Luo Qingtong immediately sent a message to Blackfield and asked them to investigate Song Cheng's identity. However, Luo Qingtong did not know if Song Cheng's name was an alias, so she did not know if they could find any information. After settling the matter here, Luo Qingtong rushed into the spirit ship and headed for the Chu Sacred Dynasty. At the same time, in the Chu Sacred Dynasty's imperial palace. In a remote corner courtyard, Elder Luo, wearing a eunuch's uniform, sneaked to the corner of the courtyard and whistled towards the sky. Instantly, a strong person wearing Blackfield's uniform appeared in front of him. Elder Luo asked nervously, "How is it? Has the news been sent out? Has Qingtong received it?" "Evil Dr. Ghost I has received the news and ordered us to protect Elder Luo," the Blackfield person said respectfully. Someone who could casually enter the Chu Imperial Palace without being discovered was naturally not an ordinary expert. Although this Blackfield powerhouse wasn't one of Yi Qianxian's subordinates, he was still a Blackfield city lord. He was very close to Yi Qianxian and naturally knew Luo Qingtong's identity. In fact, he was sent by Yi Qianxian to take care of grandfather Luo so that nothing would happen to him. Her Excellency said that she would be here soon. The Blackfield powerhouse reported the information he had received regarding Luo Qingtong. Huh? Grandpa Luo was dumbfounded. No way. He hurriedly said, "Didn't I tell you to tell her not to worry about me? I'll be fine here." Why did his precious granddaughter have to rush over? Thinking that Yan Shi and Luo Qingtong might bump into each other, grandfather Luo felt a headache coming on. What should he do? On one side was the person he loved deeply, and on the other was his most beloved granddaughter. If the two of them met, he didn't want to see anything happen. Hurry up and tell her not to come over. Her Excellency's decision, we have no right to interfere, the Blackfield powerhouse said in a low voice. Luo Qingtong was their future mistress. If she wanted to come, she could come. No one could stop her. Grandfather Luo looked at him gloomily and wanted to say something. Swoosh. Right at this moment, the expert from the Black Domain suddenly vanished before him. As if sensing something, grandfather Luo shrunk his neck and hurriedly left. At this moment, a cold voice suddenly came from not far behind him. Chapter 672. Hearing this voice, Old Master Luo's heart instantly trembled. No, I didn't. He shrunk his neck and turned around, looking at the corridor diagonally opposite. Empress Dowager Yan Shi walked in from behind the arched door, surrounded by a group of maidservants. The woman's posture was graceful and noble, her right hand resting on the hand of a personal maidservant, the fierce look in her eyes not dispersing. That pair of phoenix eyes stared at him coldly. You didn't? Yan Shi sneered, her eyes sweeping across this remote and calm courtyard. If you didn't, what are you doing here? She received the news that he would come to this remote courtyard for a few days in a row. Looking at the corner where Old Master Luo was standing, the fierce look in Yan Shi's eyes became even heavier. This empress said, Luo Tong, without this empress's order, you can't go anywhere. didn't you come here to sneak away? Old Master Luo's face was bitter. He really didn't. He just came to pass a message, telling his precious granddaughter not to come looking for him, so as to avoid confronting her. But he didn't dare to say these words to Yan Shi. Just as he stuttered and couldn't say a word, Empress Dowager Yan Shi had already waved her hand fiercely. Search for this Empress. The fierce look in her eyes was obvious. She wanted to see who was contacting Luo Tong in the Chu Imperial Palace. Was it Prince Ning's group? If it was them, Luodong's identity would have been discovered. Thinking so, Empress Dowager Yan Shi looked at Old Master Luo with a complicated gaze. As the Empress Dowager of the Chu Imperial Palace, it was actually extremely dangerous for her to force a man to stay in the Chu Imperial Palace. Even if her people had controlled most of the Imperial Palace, there were still places she couldn't take care of. In this world, there were always countless loopholes waiting for people to take advantage of. Once Luodong's identity was discovered and used, what awaited her would be eternal damnation. So many years of planning would all be ruined. But, she just couldn't send this man away. After not seeing him for decades, this man was so old. Yan Shi thought that she would despise him, disgust him, and forget him. But she didn't expect that she would still love him. What right did this man have? He had clearly aged to such an extent. Back then, he had believed the words of others and mistakenly thought that she was having an affair with someone else. He had caused the death of their child. It was clear that he had married a new bride after her, and the entire Luo clan was flourishing. Why couldn't she forget him? She still loved him. Even now, he was constantly trying to escape and hiding things from her. She still had to worry about him being used by others. Yan Shi gritted her teeth and looked at Grandfather Luo. The latter felt a pang of guilt under her gaze. I really didn't want to run away. He was just passing on a message. Shut up. Whether or not you want to escape, I will naturally investigate. The voice of Empress Dowager Yan Shi of Great Chu was cold. At this moment, the people around her returned from their investigation. Empress Dowager, there are no suspicious signs. Empress Dowager, there are no traces of anyone else. A group of people reported one after another. Old Master Luo heaved a sigh of relief. As expected of someone from the Black Field. Good. Look, I really didn't want to escape, Old Master Luo hurriedly said. Then what are you doing here? Empress Dowager Yan Shi of Great Chu looked at him coldly. Luo Tong, this is the Imperial Palace of Great Chu. If you don't want to die, be obedient and don't interact with any strange people. Yan Shi still didn't believe that it was a coincidence that he came here. However, she still felt much more at ease after finding no traces of anyone. You're tuning in to the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.